Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion, changes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no opposition, motion carries. Unanimous. See, we are on D, public comment on agenda items. I don't see anyone in the room. Is there anybody on Zoom? Once again, anybody on Zoom? You see anybody, Ken? Okay, we do not have anybody on Zoom for public comments. Agency reports. That would be the director of this department.
Actually,
Chad?
that would be the NRCF.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm one ahead of myself. Excuse me.
As always, we have our equip program that's always, always
Thank you.
taking applications. We have a second sign up later this winter / early spring. And then we have a CSP Conservation Stewardship Program deadline for applications next Friday, so a week from tomorrow.
Are you getting a lot of active participants this year?
Yeah, we've been getting a lot, and we've had a lot from our previous signups. We didn't have as much money as we do now, so we're gonna fund a lot of our backlog, which would be nice. Good to hear about.
Can you give an overview of what that program entails?
So equip environmental quality incentive program. So how it kind of works is you usually have any sort of concern on someone's property, such as like a gully is kind of a classic one. So then we would go out and assess it, evaluate it. And then there's cost share opportunities or technical assistance or both that the producer landowner could sign up for. We also have a bunch of forestry practices and management plans that we can cost share as well. Along with cover crops,
One you were talking.
it's a pretty common one we've been seeing too, cover crops and no-till.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else or we good?
Nope, that's all we have for right now.
All right, now we'll get to the directors.
Now it's my turn. All right, well, good morning, everyone. A few updates for all of you. I know the last couple of meetings I've been discussing, livestock waste ordinance, concern we've been having with a landowner.
Okay.
That site, they put up a facility that houses horses and they, constructed an animal lot that is an earthen animal lot without a permit. So what that means is they have to get a permit and then there's an after the fact fee for that permit. I've chosen not to do any type of citations or anything or any penalties like that at this point. So we just want to get the permit issued to them, but they do have to pay the double fee for the permit. And they aren't happy about that. So it sounds like they're not willing to pay that after the fact fee. A letter from our corporation counsel office went to them, kind of laying out what their options are. And one of the options is that they don't want to pay it. They just simply don't pay it, they're gonna get cited from us, and then it turns into we could cite them every day. Or they can appeal it to a written appeal within 30 days upon receipt from our decision, which would have been on the 19th of January. And that appeal would come in front of this committee. So there'd be a hearing held with all of you, and the landowner would come here, state their case. Or you'd see the written appeal of what they're arguing for. And what it sounds like is they don't want to pay the after the fact fee because they didn't know about it. They didn't know they needed this permit, and it was about roughly 8 years ago is when this was done. This is where we're working with the towns when they come in for a building permit, that the towns triggers to ask if they have livestock. But it is not the town's responsibility to tell people that they have to do it. I mean, that's just a courtesy of the town to let them know it's the responsibility of the landowner to check with county, state, town, and what permits are needed. So just wanted to make you all aware of it. The time frame would be again 30 days. I have to get that written appeal. I have not received it yet. And then we would have 60 days to schedule the hearing with the committee. So I'll keep you all posted on if that advances.
How many horses did they have?
It was only a few. Yeah, 2 or 3, so it wasn't very many. But there's stalls in the building and that does trigger the permit in an earthen lot as well.
This is a totally separate case. We were doing something with a manure pit that was two different,
things. That was the
Okay.
pit they just filled in without
right,
design.
yeah, okay.
That is actively still
Okay.
being worked on, so that one is getting,
And what, after 8 years, what triggered this?
so we're working in our highest loading sub watersheds, and we're doing inventories of barnyards to look at potential runoff from yards. And part of that was to look at where new facilities popped up. It was pretty much 2015 aerial photos to the current date is what we were looking at. We weren't going before that. And this fell right into that 15, 16 year range. Yeah. So there's been a lot of them that we have issued permits for and a number of after the fact permits for similar sites. This would be the first time in this department that I'm aware of that someone would be challenging it potentially. So
Okay, and what is the permit fee? And I'm guessing it's double for after the fact.
it's 300 for a livestock permit, and then it would be double that. So 600 would be the fee for the permit,
Is that a one-time permit?
one-time permit, and then they're good.
I don't understand, why they're digging their heels in.
I would agree. I mean, there's things that protect them by getting the permit. We talk about the newer application and then they're good to go, but I guess it's their right. They want to fight it and see where it goes. I mean, again, they're arguing that they did not know about this, but we're doing the best we can to try and get that word out there. But you can't reach everybody. I mean, especially with a new building that goes up that we can't predict that a building's gonna pop up somewhere in the county and it's gonna house livestock. How do you do outreach to those people? If it's an existing facility and they expand, we've met with livestock owners. We've done a lot of that education and outreach, but this is where we're kind of relying on the towns and we're putting blasts out there and we're doing the best we can to get the word out for what's needed.
And, you know, in fishing, ignorance of the law is no excuse, and we're talking $300. I mean, the 300 for the, so all we're really talking about is that extra 300. And, you know, and having promoted stuff, I mean, when we have a function, you can put up all the signs, you can do, if the people don't wanna read them or look at the stuff, they didn't know a permit was necessary because they didn't dig very hard. And yeah, I tend to agree with Julie. So you move forward whatever way you have to, but boy, I sure think I'm being
Perhaps
foolish.
we should, define where this property is located.
It would be in the town of Winchester. Just a little background. They did get legal advice from the town of Winchester's, their lawyer. And the argument was because of the time frame and statute of limitations, they didn't think anything over 2 years that you'd have to get a permit for. And I got legal advice and that's not the case. So I was on the phone with her for quite a while after our area association meeting, just trying to reason to try to go the easiest path forward. I did my best to try and answer questions. So,
Not surprised.
It doesn't make any sense.
right. And her argument was, where's this money going? If I pay this fee, what is it going for? Well, it goes for our time and we put together a permit package. We're looking at the setbacks. It's admin work. We've been out on site. So it's just covering those costs and
If you are able to have a barn with 2 to 3 horses in it, it seems that you're able to afford $300.
yeah. And the fortunate thing is the building is far enough away from the well and any surface water. Now, if this was closer than 75 feet, I don't even know what happens then, because we can't issue a variance at that
Yeah.
point. So then the
Yeah.
building would have to
Yeah.
come down, but luckily, there's no issues with that. So it's just, it's straight after the fact fee, we'd be done with it. But again, they have their right, and if they don't pay, then I'm gonna probably recommend doing a citation. So,
I hope it comes to this committee.
We can see which way this committee is gonna
Yeah,
go.
there you go. I'd like to hear all the story.
Yeah, I look forward.
So, yeah.
Okay, I wanted to let you all know that we have a Winnebago Waterways Farmer Roundtable coming up here. The one that we are hosting is at Masteria Colas on Broadway, that's in Berlin. It's on February 15th, from 10 to 4. I'll pass this around. So they have a farmer-led panel. It's a lot of soil health initiatives. So we've had really good turnout at this. I think we had close to 100 people show up the last couple of years to these events. And they're learning from each other. There's a lot of good information there. Agronomy companies are there and farmers, and just wanted to make you aware that we're partnering with Foxwolf Watershed Alliance and some other counties on this effort. So it's been a really popular event, and it's just one of the tools in the toolbox to try and get soil health implemented on the landscape. The last announcement I had was that the USDA Climate Smart Grant that is moving forward. So I'm actively advertising for the grant soil health specialist position. I'm doing interviews in the middle of February for that position. So hopefully we get somebody on board that can be a good part of the team to move forward with this grant and all the deliverables. There is still a lot that we're working with Foxwolf on the reporting and the forms, and it's very complicated with these federal grants, but we'll keep plugging away. The good thing is we do have it advertised, like I said, and we are getting applicants with the competition with 8 other counties at the same time going for these positions. It was a concern of mine that we're going to secure someone. So we'll see where it goes, but it is advancing, and I'm hoping to have somebody on board by March to get rolling with the grant and start signing contracts for spring planting. So.
And you say it's already publicized?
Yep. Yep, it's on the county website. We sent it to some universities. I sent it to our state organization.
How long have you been out there?
2 weeks maybe.
And no bites?
Any bites?
Yeah.
There's a few.
Good,
Yeah,
good,
there's a few.
good.
The struggle that I may have with this is one of the candidates is really qualified, and the pay is, there's a range, right? So we have a pay range, and I am down to the last dollar with this grant, and it's either gonna be able to afford a lease for the grant or afford a position. And I have to see how that's gonna shake out. I wish when Foxwolf went for the grant, we had a little bit more wiggle room in that grant for additional
Salary.
salaries.
Yeah.
Especially, some of the counties, we all get the same amount, but Winnebago is more urban county, higher paid county compared to like Washera or Shawnee County. But everybody gets the same amount, so. But we'll work through that. Figure it out. So. That's all I have for announcements.
Good, thank you. Chair's report, a couple things in your minutes. Last month we talked about Wildy Farms a little bit. I brought that to the attention of the committee. Do we have an update? Has somebody been sent out?
Sheila Smith has met with them.
Okay.
So I can touch base with her to find out what, were you looking to have them potentially come in and talk about?
Just probably an overview from somebody from staff as to what they're doing, what their thoughts are on it. Good program, bad program, that kind of thing, so.
Okay.
Especially with the fertilizer side of it.
Yep.
So maybe we'll put it on the agenda next month.
Okay.
It'd be enough time, I assume.
Should.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing I have is, for everybody's knowledge, we have a resolution that has been referred from Ledge Committee back to this committee, and this deals with wake boat regulations. We have a member of the committee here that is actually very knowledgeable of that, but, and that is Doug, but the process is, this is a bill that is pending before the legislature. However, it's, the last I heard, I'm not sure it's actually a bill number yet. So we will address this. We might even have to call a special meeting to try to stay ahead of the legislative process.
Could I add one thing?
Sure, certainly.
I did find out it sounded like this was not gonna be advancing in this session according.
Okay, good.
So we may have some time.
Representative Schwab brought that up at the meeting that he didn't think would have come. So we do have more time. In that case, we might just want to put it on the March agenda and deal with it. Your thoughts? And refer it back to Ledge and let it go from there.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I know, administration had some, input on it as well, so we may want to touch base with them on, I guess, the process. How we're going to advance everything. I think they had some, views on things with the wake boats and how to maybe get public input. But that can be discussed ahead of time and bring it to committee in March. I think that would.
Yeah, I'm sure, they can, give us their opinion under public comment. Uh,
As long as it's brought up, can I just make a few comments on it at all, or?
Sure, I'll have a little flexibility there.
As if anybody doesn't know, wake boats are a kind of a new style boat that is out there, very expensive boat, typically 200,000 to 300,000. Has a huge water tank in the back of it. And when they get into the water, they fill that water tank up so that when the boat goes forward, it just plows water. Picture, if you will, a big V plow going through Lake Winnebago is kind of what they're doing, is trying to throw up a wake. I had Chad grab the visitor's guide, but fortunately, the Convention and Visitors Bureau has a new guide out because the old guide has a wake boat in it with somebody surfing behind it. The wake is big enough that they can jump on a surfboard and surf or ski behind this wake.
There still is a wake boat in the background inside, just be aware. inside.
Yep,
Yeah.
there is one on the inside, okay.
I haven't opened mine yet, I know.
And my understanding is the state was moving regulations through that didn't really address the problem. They were very watered down, and the counties wanted to come up with their own regulations that were much more restrictive. Reason it kind of got suggested to bring it to this committee is I think Chad will agree, or he's told us numerous times, there's a ton of phosphorus in the bottom of the lakes and rivers. If you're throwing up a 7-foot wake in Lake Poygan or Winning County that's only 6 feet deep, 5 feet deep, you are stirring up that entire bottom. You're exposing 50 years of phosphorus. And at the legislative committee, I kind of told them that doesn't matter what happens in Poygan, Winning County, or Butamore, eventually that problem is going to be Oshkosh's problem, because we send all of our problems right to Lake Winnebago. And one of the suggested regulations was that they couldn't be allowed on any lakes less than 30 feet deep. And of course, the deepest in Winnebago is 21, even if you made it 20 feet deep. It would certainly eliminate those boats on this entire lake and river system, which I myself personally am totally good with. It's just too shallow to have them there. I believe one of those wake boats, if they are being used on a very regular basis, would do more damage than what Chad and this committee can do good in a year or two's time. So there's only 1% of the people, less than 1% of the people out there that even have them, but they're very expensive and the boat manufacturers love building them. So it's going to be a dogfight, and thankfully we have more time to deal with the issue. So, and
Yeah.
these are just my personal viewpoints, but just so you have some idea of what's at stake.
Thank you for that briefing. I gotta be careful I don't get beyond the agenda here.
Yeah.
Is there any questions of myself as chairman? Anybody have any questions? I think perhaps it's a good idea to put that on the agenda for March. Let's deal with it as long as we know we have that time frame now.
Yep, and just to remind the committee, our March meeting is a week later this next month because of our annual conference. I think it's March 14th, just to remind you. So
The second Thursday, right?
second Thursday.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's all I have for chairman's report. We'll get into the business side of the meeting. And the first thing is to review and approve the 2023 wildlife damage abatement and claims program. I believe you have 3 claims, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
Do you want to do these individually or collectively?
I would like to do them individually at least.
Okay. Okay, let's do have a motion to put them on the floor and bring them forward.
So moved.
Okay. Which claim do you want to do first? James L. Fisher?
Yes.
Okay, the proposal is, and I'll turn this over to the USDA here, for a damage of $5,042.
Yes. So, so we went out and we did an appraisal on Jim Fisher's place and 5,042.52 was the appraised loss. The payable loss is 44.4802. That is because there is, well, there's a $500 deductible that the DNR doesn't pay in the first $500 from the damage. Now it's a little bit less than that for James at 345 because he splits. He's got claims in 2 different counties, so they only get one $500 deductible. So based on the percentage of the damage in each county is what they split that. You had some questions about the bottom of that, how?
Yes, for, so everyone can understand the form.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the,
Bottom appraisal information,
yeah.
maybe explain that from left to right if you.
Okay, so the first one's the location, the deer zone field are pretty self-explanatory. Crop, SYB is soybeans, CGR is corn, grain. It's all this is 100% deer damage. That would be if he was enrolled for multiple species, that might be different. The acres appraised is simply the size of the fields that we looked at. And then the damage, that's the number of acres that were damaged. In this case for James was for deer. So that's per acre.
So you got 30 acres out of 100 approved. And then the damage was on 3.5 acres?
No, so that deer damage by deer, that's just a percentage. So he's only enrolled for deer, so it's all gonna be 100% deer damage.
Okay.
That would be if he was enrolled for like deer and geese. How much of that is deer? How much of it is goose? So the acres appraised, we looked at like 2 30-acre fields and a 56-acre field. On the 30-acre field, he had 3.5 acres worth of damage. And then the next couple of college yield per acre, undamaged and damaged. We fill out a form. We usually take 3, 4, 5, 6 samples out of that field. So these are an average of what the yield per acre. So we had 53.23 bushels of in the undamaged area and 3606 bushels of soybeans that were in the damaged area. So we simply subtract those two to get 17 bushels an acre damaged, and that gets multiplied by the 3.5 acres of damage, and that comes up with the total bushels lost. So that loss is the total bushels. It's just the undamaged minus the damaged yield, and then multiply that by the acres. The price, that is the price that the committee would have set back in October when you were here. And then that's what comes up with the appraised loss and the eligible loss for that. So if you're looking at some of this stuff, so the DNR doesn't pay on the first $500 worth of damage. From the first $5,000 of payable damage is paid at 100%. And then the second 5,000, well, and then it's paid at 80% until we get a max claim of $10,000. So that's why, like if you look at Jeff Postel's, it's like 25, 85, 70, and then it's just simply minus $500. But on some of these ones that are higher, because for that second $5,000, it kind of the 80% kicks in. So that's why it might not be exactly $500. That's different from the appraised loss versus the payable loss. One thing for James Fisher's is that when you're issued a shooting permit for deer, especially if you've had over $1,000 of appraised loss the previous year, the DNR puts a quota on that where they want you to shoot so many deer by the 15th of September. So one thing that James Fisher did is that he shot had 5 tags. He was supposed to shoot 84 deer by the 15th of September. He missed that by 1. So, but he did keep going, and he did shoot that one and actually fill all 5 of his tags.
But not within the time frame.
Well, he only shot 3 before the 15th of September.
Yeah.
So after that, he did finish up. And what, there is one of the provisions is that we can do a harvest waiver exemption for someone who doesn't meet if there is compelling evidence that they made an attempt to shoot these deer, and for whatever reason, they were either, sometimes if they're trying to shoot deer in the middle of the summertime and they're nocturnal, the deer shooting permits don't change the shooting hours for a landowner. So sometimes they're just not there.
They're bad shots.
Maybe that's
He was
So-
given an exception though after September 15th when deer are prevalent for the 1 deer. What was the reason for the exception?
Well, that he put in, a relatively substantial effort prior to that, he just didn't get them. He also has another shooting permit in Oshara County, and he filled all those, so he's been shooting deer. He just missed the one in Winnebago County by 1. So, we would recommend, so it has to be unanimous between the party of 3, which is us, the DNR biologist, and Winnebago County. The DNR biologist, Josh? He's okay with granting the harvest waiver exemption. We feel that, he made a solid effort, and even when he failed, he didn't just quit, he kept going. We would recommend that he be given the harvest waiver for that.
And that should be part of the motion. If you're gonna approve the funding, that would include the waiver, I think.
Would so move that we approve the funding along with the waiver.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, the motion carries. Next one is,
So,
Jeff,
Jeff, so very similar,
right?
huh?
Oslet,
Also,
Possible.
thank you.
So this is very similar to the other one, although he was enrolled for goose damage. He was giving a shooting permit, but there's no quota when we put for geese.
For geese,
For geese, there's no quota. So, I mean, he was given 10 tags, he filled 5, but there's no quota for him. So,
and this gentleman is over by Larson, Wisconsin.
yes.
Everybody know where that is, I guess, right?
There's no issues with the exception of the shooting permit on any of these, there's no issues with, hunter access denials or timely notifications. So especially for Jeff's, with no quota on that, he did everything he was supposed to do for the program, so.
Just, curious. I ran some land up north, this first time the guy ever had a good crop of corn on it, and he still hasn't picked the corn, so, and the deer are loving it.
Right.
You guys do this in September or prior
Yep.
to the harvest or whatever, and if
So, yes.
they don't get this stuff off.
There is an actual provision in the program that says once 90% of a crop in a county has been harvested, we no longer will do appraisals for that crop.
Okay, yeah.
So we're not paying anybody's food plot. So, yes. So, and to be honest, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Terrell. I'm the Assistant District Supervisor for Wildlife Services. Prior to me doing this, I did this ran this program for, what is it? So Iowa, Lafayette, Dane, Rock, Jefferson, Greene, Columbia, and previously also Waukesha, Walworth counties. Never have I run into that issue with a professional farmer that was doing it as an actual farmer where they didn't get their crops off the ground in a timely manner, and they called us up super late. So most farmers have no problems. Even if they're struggling with their crops, they'll at least call us and we'll appraise what's there for sure.
For the benefit of the committee, if I'm reading it correctly, this is for a loss of corn.
This is a loss of corn. Yep, and
Explain
he had
to the
a,
committee how a goose is, eating too much of the corn. That's
So-
of course way above his head.
well, a lot of this damage happens when that corn's first coming out of the ground
Okay, so it's when the corn is up,
this fall.
they go down the
Yep,
road,
so
just like
they-
Sand Hill Crane.
Or they're sitting in a pond, and if that cornfield was right up against that pond, they're coming, they're there and they're nesting. And then they have broods, those geese aren't going anywhere and they'll walk right out of the shore. And when that corn is small, they will nip that off. They'll pull it out of the ground. They will seriously stunt the yields on that stuff. for sure.
So you're doing your damage claim while the corn is growing,
Well, we,
or do you just deduct that from actually what he planted?
so we can recognize what damage looks like from geese in a crop. So we have to go do the yield in the fall. Because
Oh, and
that's,
then take the reduction.
yeah,
Perfect.
so we do that. So we can go and sometimes I would go, especially with soybeans, I would go and do acreage losses like end of July when it's still green, because then you can really see it. I mean, it's just a tapered down to where it's bare dirt right next to the pond, and then it kind of gets okay, and you can really see it, so you can calculate an acreage, but you do have to come back in the fall when that's all dried down, because there's, bean size and the number of beans per pod and all that stuff goes into,
And verify all that.
yep, and we go out on the ground and verify that, yep, absolutely.
Any other questions? If not, a motion would be accepted.
I move to approve the wildlife damage claim for Jeff Paso.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. All opposition, the motion carries. And I think our last one is Robert J. Walter. I believe that gentleman lives here in Oshkosh.
Yep, and so again, this is for corn that was planted. It's for deer damage to it.
Is that right out here by the prison?
Yep, and that's why there's no practical abatement because it's in town. We can't issue them shooting permit for deer when they're in town.
In the city limits.
In the city
Yeah,
limits, yep. So we don't have to worry about whether they met their quota or not for this. But there wasn't anything, timely notice was filed. They didn't have any hunter access denials, but I don't know if they would have been able to do that. I think technically with that, or was that some Act 10 or something like that happened years and years ago? The state legislature eliminated where you can't deny hunting, like in a town or a township. Only the distance from an occupied building or dwelling will always be there. But, or if you have an ordinance for discharging a firearm. But I've actually had enrollees that were in town. The city had an ordinance against discharging a firearm, so they couldn't shoot them with a gun. But they had no such ordinance on shooting a bow in town.
Mhm.
So they had to allow hunting for Canada geese with a bow on their property. So I don't think anybody ever took them up on it.
We've done that in the village, it actually works.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. So, but with deer, we would never make a cooperator specifically bow hunt off a shooting permit, so.
And for the record, I went and talked to, Mr. Walter. For a short time, the solid waste board was looking at bringing in some sharpshooters and trying to thin the herd on the two landfills. And I did go and talk to him and he was not opposed to that. I thought he would be because he's got a couple deer stands on his property there, but he said won't do much good because most all of my corn is in the city of Oshkosh and the city reminds him twice a year on a regular basis, there's no shooting in the city. So I don't know, they're in that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we have done urban deer removal stuff that
Yeah.
we get permits for that, so I think we've done actually Oshkosh landfill before. Past.
Without any further discussion of a motion.
So move.
Motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion?
Just want to add, and I'm sure that I'm going back 20 years or whatever, but when they started paying some of these claims up, where I had my cabin in Criblets, the big joke at the bar there was that they were putting out the wire cages in the hay fields to measure how much crop damage there was, and the
Yeah.
guys that own the hay fields were going out with fertilizer and watering cans on a regular basis to get the hay to grow really tall inside the
Try to
wire
get their-
cage. So,
Try to get their base yields
yeah,
up there.
check and see how moist that ground is and how dry the rest of it is when you do your report. I'm glad this is all for so
Yeah, yeah, and you know, we've done plenty of alfalfa stuff and a lot of times you can see it, but if you get in a spot where there's just, or if somebody claims that deer are everywhere in a field, or if you get in a spot where deer are everywhere in a field, sometimes that is the way to get your base.
Yeah.
Base stuff like that, to determine how much they're doing.
challenging job. Thank you.
Yeah, so we need some signatures. Do you want to do this now or do you want to do it
We
later?
didn't take a vote on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second, and then back into it.
We had a motion and a second. I didn't call the question, correct? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Can you wait till the meeting is over? You're good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Then we'll go to, let's see, next thing on the agenda is number 2, review the memorandum of agreement between the United States and the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Chad, you best lead us through this if you could.
Sure, so we have not had an active, called an MOA between us and NRCS for quite a while, so they're looking to just get this updated. And essentially what it is, it just allows us to share services. We may work with them on using equipment, potentially vehicles. So it's just working together for one common cause to get conservation on the landscape. And this MOA also includes the ability to access their files. So right now, we cannot access their files to see who's enrolled in certain programs, and we can't be double dipping with programs. So we need to know, like, for example, the Climate Smart Grant. There's a farmer that's enrolled for cover crops and no-till. We need to know that with NRCS because we're not going to go sign them up again for the same thing. So this would open that door to be able to get access to some of those files as well, to kind of streamline the efforts that we're doing. So, so really, I mean, we're partnered forever between these two agencies, and it's just more of a formal agreement to be able to use resources together. The other part of this, which I'm contemplating, is you can do a contribution agreement with NRCS where we could get compensated if we assisted with design, survey design, and construction oversight. I'm debating on doing that. Yeah, we don't do a lot of their designs, but we have assisted on a certain number of things. What I want to find out more about is, I think you can do a multi-year agreement with that contribution agreement with a dollar amount. I just want to make sure for what we're getting, it's not a bunch of paperwork to get a little bit of money on the back end. So I want to do a little more research to find that out before we do that. But if it's not that labor intensive, then it makes sense to just do a contribution agreement for those projects that we're assisting with.
Is there any other changes in the document?
I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me personally. No, the only thing that would change is the signature line in this agreement. It would just include the county exec to sign as well. That's not on here. I'm trying to get an answer back from the state, acting state conservation right now. So
Chad, do we have an agreement at this time with them?
we did, but it's expired. So they've been looking to renew this for a while.
Okay,
Is it normal for the county exec to sign these forms?
The last one they did.
It is, okay. Do I have a motion to approve or disapprove?
So move to approve.
Second. Okay, any further discussion or questions of Chad? Hearing not, all in favor of the motion, say
I
aye.
got one question.
Go ahead,
Is
Bruce.
there anything that deals with and I can't imagine this, but who would have authority on a dispute if there's one way or the other?
You mean between the two departments?
Yeah,
I mean, it,
because you're talking federal to county. That's the only reason, if someone would have more authority over the other, that's all.
I don't think so. I mean, it's been pretty cooperative. I haven't heard of any issues from any other counties. I think it would just be resolved between the county and our NRCS contact if there was something, and this can be amended if need be, if there's something that doesn't seem like it's working well, but again, it's pretty straightforward and we do a lot of this already, and I think it's more of a formality to get it on paper.
I just had a question. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Bruce. I think we had the motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, hearing none, the motion carries. Once again unanimously. We are on number 3, report on the Eric Van Dyke offshore breakwater.
Yeah, so just bear with me 1 second here. I'm gonna bring something up. Bruce, can you see the map? On your
Yes,
end?
I can. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to give all of you an update on this project. The landowner is Eric Van Dyke. So, just to get you kind of a bearing of where we are, this is Winnebago here, the Winnebago Bridge. And this bay right here would be the site that we're looking to do a project on. So I know I may have mentioned this at a past meeting briefly, but things are somewhat advancing right now with this project. This site here. So. I think it's thinking right now, waiting for the break wall to show up here, but. Okay. Okay, so this site, what we do is we compare the 1941 aerial photo to the most recent photo. And this site has been losing approximately 5 feet of shoreline every year since 1941. So this slider tool I have here, that's the 1941 photo on the left. And if you slide over this, you'll see where the wetland was. And now you can see the loss as I slide. That's 2020 behind us. You can see how much has been lost on this site. So a pretty substantial amount due to the wind action, the ice action, the wave action.
So I assume that was all bogged,
Yes,
floating stuff right there.
yep, it was emergent wetland. It's very much what it was. And more was lost even before 41, but that's the oldest photo that we have access to within the department. So I know I've talked about it before, but one option that was tried and passed was go right against the wetland. And that's not the best practice. I mean, you're that littoral zone, you're just burying that and you're not trying to recapture any of that wetland. So that is why what we're proposing here is to do a break wall offshore to try and reestablish what was lost and then some additional as well. So these purple lines represent the break wall. We have a draft design for this. They're 300-foot segments and we have 35-foot openings in between here. That's one thing that we're doing more of is openings to have good water exchange behind this break wall, not only for critters moving in and out. We can't block navigation for people, but then it's really good water exchange too.
How many segments are there?
Can you just run that arrow on the break wall? Cause I can't see that purple from here.
You want me to turn the lights down even a little more? That'll help.
I know.
And maybe can we zoom
There-
out back to showing us the bridge and then give us a location of this one also?
Sure.
So we have a comparison to the one that's already established, right?
This was one, so here's Winnebago.
All right, and that's the one we have in already.
This is the Stabino project right here.
Now you want to put one on the other side.
Now this would be on the other side. Yes.
How
So
many sections are there in those 35 segments?
there are, what do we have? I can count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 8 sections. And again,
what is the actual, or what it is today? So I can tell where that break wall would be based on today's development in that area. I just actually drove through
That's it,
there.
I believe.
This is
That is that.
That is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the 2020, this is.
All right.
So, the one thing we're doing a little differently with the break wall designs, we used to have an overlap with the break wall. We are keeping it open now to create more water exchange, and that saves a lot of money not having that overlap with the cost being so high. Yeah, so it'll be, it kind of shows it here, so this would be an opening here. And again, that would be 35 feet at the average summer water level to have an opening there. So again, saves on cost. Thing is, these are coming in a lot more expensive, so, just a little background, we have about 2,600 feet in length of break wall. There's about 3,400 feet of wetland frontage behind it that would be protected. And we came up with 3 options to present to the DNR and their resource team. And they chose the one that was the furthest out in the water. So the open water behind this that will become restored back to wetland would be 41 acres. And then we're protecting this remaining marsh. So it's about 40 acres roughly that would be converted, and then the erosion would stop behind that.
Is the village of Winnebago aware and have they bought into this or?
We haven't presented to municipalities on break walls. We have not done that.
Quite honestly, it would probably be the town that would be, because it is out in the township. I have recently leased some hunting land that's very close to that parcel, and with all the fishing and so forth, I would be 100%, 110% in favor of this project. And I would have no problem taking it to both the town and the village, and I'm sure you would get
Oh, I'm sure also, but.
all the support. It's,
They want to kick in,
Kick in
they
on
want to kick in
funding,
on money.
yeah, they don't have no money, but they think it would be a wonderful.
And that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Have to try.
Say it.
Yeah, so that leads me into, the money side of it. So cost wise, these projects have gone through the roof with everything in the world today. So we're estimating around 600 to 700,000 to get this project done. So right now, I currently have the landowner that's committed to a minimum of $20,000 he can contribute to the project. We have the Monsanto settlement that we got for the department. I was gonna take 20,000 from there. I presented to the Lake Poygan Sportsman's Club. They're kicking in another 10,000. We have our county program, that's 20,000. Our state dad camp funds, we can do another 20,000. So I'm trying to obviously gather as many different funding sources as I can. So that leaves us with about 550,000 that we have to come up with. So this is where the Spirit Fund program is going to come into play. So it could be 300 to 350,000 from Spirit funds, I'm thinking. NRDA sounds like they're on board. I initially tried going after 350 from them. I met with the council and they don't want to go that high. I think maybe they would do 200,000, so I'm gonna try for 200,000. And a couple other options that were floating out there, DNR has a surface water grant, but that is due in November. So that's not gonna be good timing for winter construction. The other interesting option that we could look into is the Wisconsin Water Quality Trading Clearinghouse. So how this works is there's pollutant loading credits that would be calculated and they'd be given to this landowner. And then you'd have wastewater discharge permit holders that would pay that landowner. So it's basically pollutant trading is what it is. And I spoke with the individual in charge and he thought that this break wall could be a good option. I've never dealt with that before, so it'd be some uncharted territory, but it's interesting to see how that might work.
Certainly would benefit the
It
landowner.
would benefit the landowners, and he would get paid, and then that could look put back into the project, is what would happen.
Can you identify the landowner or not?
It's Eric Van Dyke. Yep,
Which is okay, all right, yeah.
yep, he's a local Winnie County, actually friends with him. We just all came together on this. I've been looking at the site since 2000, and he ended up buying it, and I just stumbled on it, and he's all excited to potentially move forward.
So I assume then you want to get your permits and everything lined up to start fall construction or next winter?
It'd be winter because it's a lot cheaper, so we'd be looking at January, February, hopefully not like this next winter, but
Does that area actually freeze up pretty tight right in there?
Well, I would think it would, and what, you're looking at, what, 2 or 3 feet of depth of where you plan to put the rock?
yes, exactly. We're around that. It gets deep right down here. That's the deepest part of these 2 segments. But then we're in that 3-foot range for the rest of it.
Yep.
Yep.
And where would you access that?
It's a good question. I don't tell the contractor where they can access the site. I leave it up to them because sometimes they'll work out a deal with a private landowner and pay him on the side. So I don't know if we could come off of this peninsula here, if this landowner would be willing, or if we come through the marsh somewhere. I know Eric owns one of these parcels down here where we could come through the marsh, and we've done that before in projects. I don't think there's a good spot to the north here to access it, in my opinion, so I think it's gonna have to be somewhere in the south part of it, in my opinion.
Where would that be down there?
I mean, it's basically right on,
How far from the Finn and Feather are you going north?
a mile
A mile?
tops. Yeah,
So the river currents shouldn't be an issue here, like the staff.
no, if there's any river current, it's gonna be at the very north end of the project.
Okay,
But the little bit I've seen, most of that current kind of heads over to the other side of the river. It kind of circles around, if you will. I think you'll have less problems here than you had on the other side of the river there.
yeah, that was very challenging to say the least on that one, because
Yeah.
the ice we get, you get 50
Yeah.
feet away, it was open water. And
Yeah.
it's scary on that one, but this one, I don't think it's gonna be as challenging.
Chad, could you slide back over? I want to see the difference in the development between the old
Oh, sure.
photo and the new photo.
Yep.
Just curious. We don't often get this chance, so I
Oh,
thought.
yeah. So I'll go slow here, so you can see the existing shoreline, and then as we go out, that wetland came all the way out, the southern part, all the way to the break wall and even beyond. I didn't want to go out here in front of the view of these landowners, so that's why I tucked it in.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then here, we're gonna be gaining more, and then just keep in mind, this is 1941, that wetland easily went out further. Before that, we're just capturing 1941.
And it, being from Winnie County, and it's 2 awesome projects, and it may look like, why is Winnie County getting all the benefit of these? That's a location where Oregon and Winnie County dip down into a river. On the whole system, those 2 sides are probably about as critical to save and fix as any place on, I mean, the mouth of the Wolf, and they're doing good work up there, and this is kind of the second most critical spot on the whole system, in my opinion.
Yep, I would agree. Like I said, I've been wanting to get this project done for 20 years, and it's just really neat to see it come together. I think the next big hurdle, obviously funding's a big hurdle. DNR is gonna be a big hurdle with their new water regs individual. So I had a meeting with all of them. I'm gonna be sending this to him next week. But it's gonna be a challenge, and it's not just this project, it's a lot of projects within the department.
I also think that was part of the intent of sure. You have your projects on the land with the individual landowners, but this benefits a lot
It does.
of residents within the area. So
Does. That's the beauty of these break walls, is everybody gets to use it. They benefit from fishing, hunting, water quality. I mean, it stabilizes the lake bottom, like Doug, you're talking about the legacy phosphorus. These plants become established, and they're stabilizing that lake bottom behind it, so.
And I believe we have eagles over there, don't we? We used to have 3 or 4.
We
So
Winnie
this
County
is
gets
just
a
more
lot of
habitat.
eagles. That's, perhaps at the next meeting or the next time this gets discussed, I'm going to discussion, you might want to bring back a few of the pictures on the other side of what it was before and what it is after.
Yeah,
Just so we all kind of understand how fast this can turn around.
I could maybe do that now if I could figure out how to get in.
Well, and
Chad,
I-
before,
Yep.
Chad, before you
Yep.
click off this slide, where that purple line is, it is on where you put the rock. It is on a private ownership parcels, correct?
This one is, right, and that sliver that you see right here. So he initially approached me and they didn't have enough land base to do it. So I couldn't work with them. And then this land sold. So that's why I'm working with him, but this landowner, they didn't want to contribute any money, so that's why I'm skirting along that parcel line.
Yep.
right
But my
here.
point is, where the purple line is, who would own the break wall then? Would the landowner, because you're building off of his, or would it be the states, or?
The state technically owns it from what I've been told.
I would just get clarity on that because of the rights, because we're putting, and I think we've done it before, but I would just ask that question.
They cannot stop people from walking on the break wall. It's not private property. I know that for sure.
But, because we had 50 some acres up on the lake, up on our property, and someone, they had told me if someone wanted to jump out on a boat out in front of our subdivision and touch the ground, they could do whatever they wanted out there.
Yep, if your feet are wet, you're legal in Wisconsin.
Well, my
Correct.
point is, if you build this up, you're building on their property. And I'm not in disagreement of this, but it's just clarified that.
I have, Bruce, that they have clarified it in the state. Technically, they do own it because it's in the water body. That's what I've been told from the DNR.
Well, just whatever documentation you have, I would add that to this issue. That's all.
Yeah, we have to make that clear with the landowners that I've had landowners put no trespassing signs on these break walls and they get taken
Great.
down real quick. You can't do that.
Great. Okay. We're good.
Good.
I think it's a good idea.
Let me see if I can quickly find. We are working on file management in about a week here. It's starting to get away in the department with everything we have going on.
Well, I gotta tell you, Windows does not have a good way of searching in files. I mean, even like you have a folder and file within, it just is not effective.
Does it make a difference for the plant life if the lakes freeze or don't freeze? The plant life behind the breakwater.
Not sure, to be honest.
I'm sure it's just like land plants. I mean, I've got some plants, like my catnip right now is like loving this weather. I got new leaves coming up like crazy. If it freezes, then it just goes dormant again. It allows the plants like another opportunity to collect nutrients, basically.
Would this be a big benefit to the walleye run also, Doug?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Where the plants.
Is they're heading farther.
They're headed,
north.
they want to stay in where there's current and.
Yeah.
There we go, that's
So
But
this,
would it turn into a spawning ground then or not?
perhaps for the north.
This one is the most.
I don't know, the walleye,
yes,
perch and panfish would, the hell out of it.
What was, which, can you scroll down so we can see the years on there?
yeah, so this is right across the river that I pointed out, the Stabino site. So we flew the drone on the August 23rd, 2022, and then we flew it this last summer. And it's pretty telling, the response of vegetation behind that break.
Oh, yeah.
That's after 1 year. I mean, that's a lot quicker than normal.
Did we plant something in there or is that just natural?
All natural. We've tried that and it's, in my opinion, a waste of money and time trying to plant, just like Mother Nature.
So
You give it the right conditions of Mother
the only
Nature.
problem would be if you got the wrong things.
And you do get a little bit of invasives, but the majority of the plants are good native plants behind these break walls. So, yeah.
With that picture, and I'm pleased that Eric Van Dyke is, and I think
Yeah.
that Sleazy bought it, that sliver was worthless marshland, was for sale forever. And I'm glad he's working with you and so forth. If you get the one grant that you're talking about where you get reimbursed, or the landowner would get reimbursed for pollution abatement or whatever, it seems to me if Eric's only putting in 20 grand, and he may in fact end up with an additional 40 acres of marshland that hopefully has some uses for him, at very least duck hunting. And now he might actually be getting reimbursed for the 20 that he put into it.
So what I would do if we did the pollutant trading, that number would go up for him. I would consider that as part of his contribution. So if he got, say, $50,000, then he would be contributing 70,000.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not just doing that to pay him, it's because there's a lot of money.
That's
No, we're trying
Then
to,
he's not upfronting the money then.
no, he just gets a check.
Credits.
We'll find out how much and then that'll go back to the project.
I think that might be the better route to go.
Yeah, that's apparently Chad was already all over that.
Yes, and again, it's a ways to get to that point, but it could be an option, but I need to find out more because
Yep.
it is definitely unique and we have not dealt with that yet. But also I want to make you aware of the Spirit Fund program that we have the $50,000 cap, but we can go above that with approval from the committee. Obviously, we're gonna have to go above that 50,000, so I just didn't want there to be any sticker shock. But this is one of the larger scale projects that we do, and these break walls will come to an end on the system at some point, and this is one of the higher priority ones that we have left.
When are you gonna seek that approval?
I'm guessing within.
You wanna do it
3 to
this
5
term
months.
or next term?
Well, it
Not
depends.
defined yet?
It's not, I need to find out more about the grants, see what the ask is gonna be, so there's a little bit of unknown until I get more questions answered. So,
Hey, the one other benefit of this one that I think is a benefit is it's kind of right there for everybody to see that project. I mean, any boater, heck, anybody that goes to Lake Winnebago Park can, so I think the public perception of this, or them seeing what we're accomplishing and doing, I think would be a real benefit also to the project.
I
Are
totally,
you asking, can we put a sign on that thing?
we do have signs. that
Land
we've
Water
talked about
Conservation,
it.
Winnebago County Land Water Conservation Department.
Yep, we do have signage, that water quality improvement project, and we can put that out there, and
Yes.
and I would agree with you 100%, Doug. We've done a lot of these, but they're typically off the beaten path, and the Stabino one is a good example where we got a lot of great input on it. It's typically 99% positive, but it's visible, like you said, it's right there in the village and people are talking about it. I've got pictures of smallmouth bass they're getting on the outside of these structures, and then obviously your panfish on the inside. Just a really neat project.
They all bitched about it before it was built, and as it was getting built, and now nobody can believe how successful it was, so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, who were they complaining?
To see the before and after fitting here is just. Yeah.
This is a great initiative, I think.
You betcha.
Yeah, so you can see on this picture that this is a different type of opening. We had to adjust on this one because the ice just completely was open water out here, so.
Yeah, that's the opposite of what we're gonna be doing now, right?
Yeah, so we have like an island out here that creates the opening, but this will be removed and then this will be brought in to close that up a little bit.
How many you gonna have then? Just one or two?
No, there's an opening every 300 feet, so there'll
Every
be
300 feet?
7 openings or so.
Yeah,
And you can see here with that water coming in, you'll get a little bit more open water behind it, so you'll get some nice diversity of open water, plants. I think overall it'll just be a better project. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work, we can come in and redo those openings. We've only tried it on one other project, and it's too early to tell. But it's worth a try, in my opinion.
that went to DNR watch.
The the lesson kind of learned there was Terrell Island, which
Yeah,
they enclosed the whole thing. It was the best thing ever for perch and bluegill spawning. And by the second year, the pelicans and cormorants figured out that was a great place to poop and, turned it into just a stagnant wasteland. So,
well, that's because they couldn't flush the toilet.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
That project, we have almost $1 million hung up in grants. And this winter was the year to get it done before those grants expired, and obviously it's not happening,
No.
so we're gonna be hoping for extensions, and we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board to try and figure this out, so. We'll see, it's unfortunate, because we still have about 2,500 feet to do on that project. So. But yeah,
Great initiative, Chad,
thank you.
I think at least, yeah.
Yeah, neat projects for sure. Any other questions on the Van Dyke site? Otherwise, it'll be advancing, and I'll keep you all in the loop as it progresses.
Hearing none, we'll go to agenda item 4. This is the last thing on our agenda, and that's to review the Van Water Conservation Department project list. We have 2 additional people on the project, or these last time?
3 of them on mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3, yes.
Yep, so the first one would be Albrecht Brothers. He's one of our demo farmers. And he's looking to do some wascobs, which is essentially collect the water in a farm field in a pipe. And then it goes through a pipe and then outlets into suitable outlets. So instead of eroding across the farm field, we collect it, that sediment will settle out. And then it discharges the water in a suitable outlet. So
Are you referring to a tile line?
it's like a tile, similar to that.
That's called a wascob?
Wascob, so Levi helped me out.
It's
Water,
a water and sediment control basin.
there you go.
Okay, so the sediment's controlled at the discharge point.
It's
At the inlet,
at the inlet, yeah.
at the inlet. So it's almost like a,
It's a little like.
Oh, and the way they,
yep, it's like a berm or a dam.
Yeah.
And
okay.
it'll fill up behind that, sediment settles out, and then the water goes through the pipe and out. and not across the farm.
Yeah, the inlet is designed based on how long you want the water to sit in that basin. The longer it sits, the
How
more.
much area in the field does that incorporate that?
It really depends on how much water you're capturing.
Depends on the watershed. coming through it. So
Yeah.
size based on that, so
So the farmer's actually losing some.
a little bit. Sometimes they can farm through it,
Yeah.
it just depends.
Yeah, some of them are based on croppable and some are not, depending how big the work is, how tall it is.
So, Jamie Albright, we're working with him on a couple of wascobs. Rick Gerke, we have a couple waterways and an interesting project, which this is gonna potentially fall under our demo project for the Spirit Fund program. It's a pollutant reduction system. So there's gonna be a spot where the water is collected where the tile outlets. And then there's a material that's put in it could be like a metal material, and I forget exactly what it would be. But it removes the phosphorus essentially before it advances to the water body, which would be the Fox River on the site.
That's
So-
at the outlet of the tile?
That's where the tiles outlet, so it's collected there, it goes through the substrate, which is some sort of metal shavings, takes the phosphorus out, and then it releases it. So they've been done in other parts of the state, and he's interested in doing something in it. It's a really good site to do it.
Our first one.
It'd be our first one, and it's exciting that he's willing to do it. And it'd be a nice demo project to showcase for the department, so. Those discussions are being had, but that one will be probably advancing to all of you for approval at some point this year for that project. Then the last one would be, let's pronounce it Kagerbauer. That is a shoreline protection, so that's some shoreline erosion where we'll do some riprap, and then there'd be a native buffer plant.
Lake Winnebago.
Lake Winnebago, correct. Those are the 3 new ones for February.
There any further questions on the report? I'd be interested in some follow-up on these new initiatives. There's a BB and PRS. Yeah, that's, I think it's always a good thing to see new technology being brought forward to
Yes.
address Flues, that kind of stuff.
And that's what's neat with the Spirit Fund program that you all approved, is we have that demo option in there to do those types of practices that are, you know, we have our cookbook of what the state has approved, but there's some really cool things that are coming through the pipe that we can potentially try in the department, so.
Chad, are you aware of any other counties that got as much ARPA funds as your department did?
Outagamie County just got 500,000, but not as much as we did. I don't know of any that got as much as us.
Of the
So,
72
we are so
counties, I think we are by far. leader.
We're kind of the talk of the town, what I'm hearing through the
You know, we
grapevine.
also have so many water lines too. that-
You know why we got it? Because we asked for it.
That's true.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah,
think
sort of
Bruce
like
for bringing it up. That was
Way early.
a great idea. Yeah, it took a little work, but with support of everyone, we got her done, so. That's the last thing on our agenda, so we'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on adjournment? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, or now we are adjourned. Thank you. Good meeting.
See you, Bruce.
Keep warm, Bruce.
You can go.